this as a result of this distortion. There was also genetic manipulation of humanity to change the nature of the genetics that we had before. And the reason for that I'll come to. In fact, one of the main reasons for it was to change the frequency band that humans could decode, put us in a smaller band than we were in before. And basically what this did was lock us into a frequency range which acts to this day like a prison. Tiny band of frequency we call visible light. Now, as I just mentioned, the other thing that happened is that there was specific breeding between these reptilian entities and humans, creating a hybrid bloodline. This hybrid bloodline became known under different names. They became known as the demigods. You read about them in history, the demigods. The demigods, because the reptilian entities were perceived as gods, the demigods were perceived as part human, part god, therefore demigods. These hybrid bloodlines became the royal families and aristocracy of the various cultures, where they claim the right to rule because of their bloodline, their connection to the gods. Ancient Chinese emperors claimed the right to be emperor because of their genetic descendants from what they called the serpent gods. In Britain today, we still have a head of state, Queen Elizabeth II, who is only head of state because of her bloodline, because of her genetics. And so we have this manipulation of the DNA, creating this hybrid bloodline, and that's the caduceus, the symbol of the medical profession to this day, very appropriately. I know people say it symbolizes Kundalini energy and all that, but it's very appropriately also symbolizes the input in reptilian genetics. Because the DNA is a software program. And these hybrid bloodlines have a software program that is much more reptilian than the general run of the population. And because everything is a vibration, if there is a genetic compatibility between the reptilian gods, or what I'll call the serpent gods, and humans, or their hybrids, human bloodlines, then there is a vibrational compatibility, which is very, very significant, as I'll get to in a second. Now, one of the key things to remember about this hybrid DNA is that something was removed from the normal DNA, and that is an ability to have empathy with the people who suffer the consequences of your actions. If you think about it, if you remove empathy from the human psyche, human feelings, there are no limitations. If I have empathy with people in Iraq, I cannot possibly order the pepper bombing of Baghdad. If I have no empathy, I have no problem with that whatsoever. And these bloodlines, what I'll call the Illuminati bloodlines, the serpent hybrid bloodlines, the ones that are behind the control system, they have no empathy. That explains so much about what they do. So because this hybrid genetics has a vibrational sympathy, compatibility with these entities that operate just outside of human sight, it means that these entities can possess, an ancient theme, these particular hybrid bloodlines in ways that they cannot with the general population. And what it means is if you manipulate the bloodline, the apparently human level operating within 5 sense sight, into positions of power, what you're doing is putting these entities into positions of power. But because when we look at people, we see the human level because that's all we're decoding. We don't realize who the real power structure is behind who we think is the power structure. Now, like I say, the theme of possession, often possession by reptilian-type entities, is an ancient theme all over the world. And what it means is that when someone meets, and I've not put Father George Bush there by accident, by the way, when you meet someone from these hybrid bloodlines, you're decoding the level of them that operates within the frequency range that you're decoding. So you see apparently a human. Hello, George. But if you could see, and some psychics can, if you could see just beyond that, in terms of your visual acuity, you would see an entity overshadowing this that looked anything but human. And I've met people with psychic sight all over the world that have seen this. So what you're looking at is a human level that we decode, but behind it is something that's anything but human, that is controlling, most of the time anyway, the mental and emotional responses of that person. The other thing that psychics around the world have told me they've seen is like an ethereal reptilian entity overshadowing humans and locking in to these bottom two vortex points, chakra points. Again, a form of possession. Now you can symbolize what I'm saying here like this. You know when you see scientists working in a laboratory and they're working with material that is too dangerous to touch. So what they do is they stand outside of the tank and they put those long gloves on and they work inside the tank while they are on the outside. Well, if you look at this in vibrational terms, that's what's happening. These entities are operating outside of this frequency range, but through these hybrid vehicles with which they have vibrational connection, they can manipulate this world very similar to this. And Neil Haig, my artist friend, symbolizes these bloodlines and the Illuminati secret society network. And this will be a common theme through the next few sections.